Everyone, so this is my 5-section part class, and this is the first of 5 classes, and today we're going to start with the yellow wallpaper. So I hope I'll see you all next week at 9 p.m. France time, because we'll continue with the same story. So I hope that you follow along. All right. Hey guys. All right.
Hello everyone.
Hello. So can everyone access the link I posted on VerbLink? Okay. So I'm going to post it in chat. And let me know. You should end up on a story entitled The Yellow Wallpaper. Right. And let me know if you cannot get to that story. And I hope we'll be able to read, I think the story is about 12 pages long, maybe like 6 of them today, and discuss them. And then next week, since this is one of the classes that will happen once a week for 5 weeks, we'll continue the story. So I hope that you guys will be there. All right. All right, so can everyone access the yellow wallpaper?
Yeah, I can.
Yeah? Okay, awesome. All right.
Can you post it in the chat box, please?
Yep, I'll post it again I posted it in public chat, and now I'll post it in our private, I think this is our private classroom chat. All right. Okay. All right. So has anyone ever heard of The Yellow Wallpaper?
No.
Okay, by Charlotte Perkins Gilman. So unfortunately, the only stories that I can find are ones that have that are a little bit older. So the trademark on them does not exist, like their copyright has expired. So it's a little bit of an older story, but I think it's a little bit easier, the language, to understand than maybe reading Charles Dickens or something. So, because I know it's hard to get your hands on sometimes the same English book. So if anyone wants to start reading, you're more than welcome. And we'll talk about probably 1 page at a time to make sure everyone is following along. So do I have any takers?
I want to start.
If you want, go.
Okay. Please start. Whoever said I would like to start. You can definitely do that.
Right. Since which part?
So the yellow wallpaper, it starts with, it is very seldom that mere...
So from that part? Okay. It is very seldom that mere ordinary people like John and myself secure ancestral halls for the summer. May I continue?
Yeah. Why don't you read about halfway down the page, maybe until, personally, I disagree with their ideas. That way everyone gets a nice chunk of reading in for class.
A colonial mansion, a hereditary estate, I would say a haunted house, and reach the height of romantic felicity, but that would be asking too much of fate. Still, I will proudly declare that there is something queer about it. Else, why should it be let so cheaply, and why have stood so long untainted? John laughed at me, of course, but one expects that in marriage. John is practical in the extreme. He has no patience with faith, an intense horror of superstition, and he scoffed openly at any talk of things not to be felt, and seen and put down in figures. John is a physician, and perhaps I would not say it is to a living soul, of course, but this is dead paper and a great relief to my mind. Perhaps that is one reason I do not get well faster. You see, he does not believe I'm sick, and what can I do? If a physician of high standing and one's own husband assures friends and relatives that there is really nothing the matter with one but temporary nervous depression, a slight hysterical tendency, what is one to do? My brother is also physician
Physician. Hmm.
and also of height of standing, and he says the same thing. So I take phosphate or phosphites, whichever it is, and tonics, and journeys, and air, and exercise, and am abundantly forbidden to work until I am well again. Personally, I disagree with their ideas.
Okay, great job. Okay,
Thanks.
so who is the narrator? Who is the narrator? Or what can you tell us about who is telling the story? And also, does everyone know what wallpaper is? Because that's very important that you know what wallpaper is. Okay. I'll take that as a yes. And if you don't know what wallpaper is, check out wordreference.com and it should translate, but it's for your walls to make them pretty. So hopefully that helps. Okay, so does anyone...
Does it mean the comment or the attitude or the point of view of the stories like this?
Yeah, so I'm just asking about information.
Analyzes the story.
So yeah, we can start off with what point of view is the story told from?
Who's the hero of the stories? What's the complex?
You don't know the name of the person, but do you know the gender of the person telling the story? The gender or the sex? Okay, so the narrator mentions that she is married. That they are married to someone named John. So the narrator is a woman. The narrator is a woman. She is married to John. What is John's job?
A doctor.
Yeah. So a physician is a doctor. Okay. 1 second. Okay. All right, and let's see. Okay, so what point of view is the story written from? Is it written from John's point of view, her brother's point of view, her point of view? Omniscient, we don't know. Omniscient is like a ghost. Omniscient is third person.
Third person.
Okay, so you would say third person. Anyone else? What do you think? So this story is written in the first person, and that we know that because she uses I. So whenever your story will use I, it's written in the first person point of view, usually. Right? Ooh. Okay, so another question. Let's see. What is her brother's job?
Also doctor.
Yeah, so he's also a doctor. All right. And do we know what is wrong with this woman, with our narrator? Do we know what medical ailment she has?
uh, that he didn't agree with their thoughts.
Yeah, so we know our narrator is sick, but we don't know yet with what. So they haven't told us. But what do doctors tell her she should do? So what do the doctors prescribe? Oh my God, can't write. As medicine. I'm putting that in quotes because it's not really medicine. What did they tell her that she should do?
That he didn't think that he's sick.
Okay.
Can you repeat your question, please?
So, doctors prescribe that she does something. Her husband and her brother say that she is not sick, but what is she supposed to do to get better, which means also to get healthier? What does she do?
To be alone?
Healthier. Let's take a look at, 1 second, I will find it.
Take phosphates and phosphites.
Yeah, so she takes phosphates and phosphites. What does she do after that?
Journey and air and make exercise.
And what can she not do? She is forbidden to
work.
Yeah. So would you say that our character is fragile? If she is not allowed to do anything besides, sit outside, maybe breathe some air, drink some tonic water. So, yeah, she's a little fragile. Okay. So I know this story is pretty difficult, so I hope you guys will stay here with me. So I have a few more questions so that we can kind of understand what is happening, and then I can summarize. I'm going to post the link again because we have another student. So Hussein, if you go to this link, it's a story, and we read the first half of the first page. Okay, so what time of year is it? What season is it in the story?
Maybe summer?
Yep, so it's in summer. And where are they for this summer?
In the garden.
In a colonial mansion.
Yeah, so how would you describe a colonial mansion? What's a mansion?
A big house.
Yeah, so they're in an old big house. And what's important about the fact that it's old? What does she say about it?
About thought?
A colonial mansion, a hereditary estate, I would say a haunted house, and reach the height of romantic felicity. So she says that it's old, but also what does she tell us about it that may not be that good? What does haunted mean? A haunted house. So a haunted house is a house that has ghosts, spirits, maybe the devil living inside it. Yeah. So has anyone ever had that feeling when they look at a house? They think, oh, that house is haunted.
Yes,
maybe
of course.
Yeah, but did you believe that it was really haunted?
Yes.
Yeah.
When I child, I feel that.
Yeah. So that's great. We can say maybe that our narrator also maybe she's a little bit childlike, because today as adults, we wouldn't walk by a house and say that it's haunted and that it would scare us. We may say it's haunted because it's old and it reminds us of a horror movie, but we wouldn't believe that the devil was living inside it, really. So, so can anyone, yeah, can anyone maybe summarize what the first half of the page talked about? So, answering, like including some of the questions that you've answered. Okay, so I can do a quick summary. All right, so our narrator is a woman, and she's married to John, a doctor. Her brother is also a doctor, but they do not believe that she is ill in any way. But we don't know what kind of illness our narrator believes she has. So no one believes that she's sick, but she is convinced she is sick. So her husband and her are spending the summer in a huge house in the countryside, and she believes that this house is haunted. Okay? All right, so would anyone like to read the rest of the page, and then we can go from there? You just have to read it. I won't ask you to answer questions. Don't worry.
Okay, I want to read.
Okay. Yes to both of those?
I can read? It's
Yes.
in personally. Okay. Personally, I believe that congenial work with excitement and change will do me good. But what is one to do? I did write from a while in spite of them, but it does exhaust me a good deal, having to be so sly about it, or else met with heavy opposition. I sometimes fancied that my condition if I had less opposition and more society and stimulus. But John says the very worst thing I can do is to think about my condition. And I confess, it always makes me feel bad. So I will let it alone and talk about the house. The most beautiful place. It is quite alone, standing well back from the road, quite 3 miles from the village. It makes me think of English places that you read about, for there are hedges and walls, and gates that lock, and lots of separate little houses for the gardeners and people. There is a delicious garden. I never saw such a garden, large and shady, full of bugs, bordered paths, and lined with long grape-covered arbors with
Arbor?
seats under them. There were greenhouses too, but they are all broken now. There was some legal trouble, I believe, something about the heirs and coers. Anyhow, the place has been empty for years. That spoils my ghostliness, I'm afraid, but I don't care. There's something strange about the house, I can feel it. I even said so to John one moonlight evening, but he said what I thought was a draught and shut the window.
Okay, awesome. Just one thing, ghostliness.
Ghostliness.
Yeah.
Okay.
I feel like that's a made-up word. All right. So do we know what her condition is yet? So a condition is a sickness. Did she tell us what her sickness is yet?
No.
No, she didn't.
No.
Yeah, that's correct. Okay. And so what does she do that John tells her she needs to stop doing? What does she constantly do? Or it's not an action, maybe, so much as a thought.
She
So-
fancies all the time.
Yeah, so, okay, fancies. She thinks. What is she thinking or fancying about? She's thinking about her condition, and she thinks about it all the time. So we can say from the very first page, we know this narrator. So we know this narrator is neurotic. I'm writing that in. So you can see that she says in the beginning of the second part we read, I sometimes fancy that my condition, if I had less opposition and more society and stimulus, so she would think less about whatever sickness she has if she had something to do. So John tells her to think about other things and talk about other things. So she tells us about her house. But then, if you notice, the last line, isn't it? Oh, she says she's talking about the house, but she's also talking kind of about her sickness. And she says, I don't like this house. I don't care. There's something strange about the house. I can feel it. And she's already becoming neurotic about this house. Does everyone understand that? So her condition is a little bit neurotic, being neurotic about certain things, and you'll see more of that. So she concentrates on certain details and picks at them and thinks about them over and over. Okay? So then I just have a few questions about the house. Can you guys give me some details about where they're staying for the summer?
Greenhouse.
Okay, so what about the greenhouses?
So it's like a farm or what?
Okay, well what does it tell us?
The green houses are broken.
Yeah, so there were greenhouses for maybe farming or plants in the past, but they're broken, so we can say, I'll give you some synonyms here, disheveled, disheveled, wow, I cannot spell today, disheveled, or destroyed. So why is the property in such horrible care? What happened?
Because the house is not near from the other houses.
Mm-hmm.
From
Yes, so the house
village.
So the house is far away from town.
From
Okay.
village.
What happened?
Here,
From the
quite
other.
3 miles from the village.
I'm sorry, Laura.
Mm-hmm.
When they say that spoiled my ghostliness, what does it mean in that phrase? What is the meaning of that phrase?
There's something about okay. Can we finish this part and then I can tie it in
Okay.
to ghostliness? And I promise it will make sense. Okay, so the house is far away from the village, but why else is the house not taken care of? What happened? So what happened to the previous owners?
Also, there is a gardens around it, and walls and gate.
Yeah, so we have an image of kind of a beautiful garden that was beautiful in the past. So if we take a look at, there was some legal trouble, I believe, something about the heirs and co-heirs. Anyway, the place has been empty for years. So why is the house and the property not taken care of?
Because there is some legal trouble.
Mm-hmm. And what happened?
The people here in this paragraph, there was some legal trouble. I believe something about their shares and chores, and where the place had been empty for years.
Yeah, so
Yeah, and maybe they're on a dispute about the house with the heirs and the. Yep.
yeah, so we don't know what happened. Maybe they had a fight and no one could decide who would own the house.
Yes.
Or they lost all their money, but the house was empty, so it fell into poor condition because it had no owners. So, does that make sense? So the house, I'll write this down. The house was in a terrible condition because there had been no owners or inhabitants. And inhabitants, the family that lives inside, for many years. So getting to Hernan's question, that spoils my ghostliness, I'm afraid, but I don't care. So she had this idea in her head that the house was so mysterious and haunted because of her imagination, and then she discovered the truth, that the house was in that condition not because something bad had happened there, but because no one had lived there. Does that make sense? Does that answer your question?
Yes.
Yeah?
Thank you.
Okay, great. All right.
And and she put the bad image about the faraway house and a lot of walls and like this. Yes, maybe in her mind.
Yeah, it's like you said when you said you were a child and you saw a haunted house and you believed that ghosts were living there and that it was truly spooky or scary. And she believed that, and then she found the truth out and, you know, glass shattered, and she saw the house for what it really was, which is not haunted, but old.
Yes.
Yeah? Okay. So I hope everyone understands a little bit. So to recap, we're looking at this beautiful house that is in poor condition. And the woman knows it's not haunted, but she still wants to believe that it's haunted. And can anyone tell us from the last sentence how we know that she wants to believe the house is haunted? Or the last two sentences. What there tells us that she wants to believe the house is still haunted, even though she knows the true history. So she tells us, there's something strange about the house. I can feel it. And then she says, I even said to John one moonlight evening. So she tells her husband one night, she goes, this house is haunted. And he tells her, oh, you just felt a drought. And a drought is a cold burst of wind. So when you feel a ghost, you're supposed to feel cold. So he tells her, you're just imagining it. The house is not haunted. Don't worry about it. Okay? All right. So I hope that makes sense, and maybe we can move on to the second page. Do I have a volunteer to read half the page? Maybe until... Oop, frozen again. Maybe until it says, and there are rings and things in the wall. Could anyone? Yeah? Awesome. So
okay.
if you,
I don't from where, please, again?
Yep, so you have to go to the bottom of the page, and it will say next page. So it should take you to
Okay.
page 2. And
Yes.
it'll start with I get
I
unreasonably.
get.
Yeah. And
Okay.
then I'll let you know when to stop, but it should be rings and things in the wall.
Okay.
Yep.
Um, I get unreasonably angry with John sometimes. I'm sure I never used to be sensitive. I think it's due to this nervous condition. But John says if I feel so, I shall neglected proper self-control. So I take pains to control myself before him, at least, and that makes me very tired. I don't like our room a bit. I wanted one downstairs that opened on the pizza and had roses all over window and such pretty old-fashioned shanties hangings, but John wouldn't hear of it. He said there was only one window and not room for 2 beds, and no near room for him if he took another. He is very careful and loving, and hardly lets me stir without special direction. I have a schedule respect
A schedule prescription.
prescription for each hours in the day. He takes all care from me, and so I feel busily ungrateful not to value it more. He said, we came here slowly, sorry, and my account that I was to have perfect rest and all their air I could get. Your exercise depends on your strength, my dear, said he, and your good somewhat on your appetite, but air you can absorb all the time. So we took the nursery at the top of the house. Okay.
Yep, you're almost done. Just 2 more sentences, and then I won't make you read anymore. So, it is a big, airy room. Scotty? Hello? Okay. All right, well, we'll just leave it there unless I have a volunteer to read 2 sentences. Anyone?
Okay, may I read it?
Yes, please.
Okay, it's a big airy room, the whole floor nearly, with the windows that look always, and the air and sunshine glory. It was
Galore.
necessarily first and then playroom and gymnasium. I should judge for the window are built for little children, and there are rings and things in the walls. The paint and paper looks as if a boys' school had used it. It's stripped of the paper in great patches all around the head of my bed, about as far as I can reach, and in a great place on the other side of the room, low down. I never saw a worse paper in my life.
Okay,
Well,
stop there, and I'll let
okay.
you continue reading the rest of the page. I just want
Perfect.
everyone to understand what we are reading. So what is her condition? She tells us in the first sentence. What type of condition does she have? It begins with an N.
I think she's in a nervous condition, and she was so sensitive, especially with John.
Yeah, so she has a nervous condition, and she is sensitive with John. Why would you say that she is sensitive with John? What does she do for him? What does she do to control herself? for him?
I think she's became angry with him, or maybe have a trouble with him, something like that.
Yeah,
So,
that makes
so he
sense.
tried to make her relief, or
Yeah, so their relationship, we can say their relationship seems stressed. The relationship seems stressed. And what does he tell her she can do? But John says, if I feel so, I shall neglect proper. What is self-control? So what is John telling her to do when they are in the countryside?
Keep reasonable.
Yeah. So he's telling her to keep her mind, which, if you think about it, is a little funny because she just told us that she is a little, she's not insane, but she does have a psychological disorder. And he's telling her to, you don't have to keep control around me. Like, you can go crazy. Which, what? So that's a little different.
Laura,
Yes.
I'm sorry,
Mhm.
but I get in right now, so
Yep.
can you tell me where you are?
Yes. Do you have the story?
Oh yes, the yellow wallpaper.
Okay. Yep. I just posted the link again. If you scroll down to the bottom, hit next page, so you're on page 2. And we only read half the page, so we're going to summarize half the page. Nothing much has happened. So it's a little bit slow getting into the story.
Second page, but which sentence?
We're going to talk about this sentence. I don't like our room a bit. So I want you to tell me details, the other students who heard this paragraph. Why doesn't she like the room that they are staying in?
Okay.
What details does she give?
Sorry?
What details does the narrator give to describe why she does not like the room she is staying in?
Oh, I haven't read the.
Yeah, I wasn't asking you specifically, just other students in class. So
I think
hopefully you'll have a chance.
Oh, okay.
sorry, I think she wanted downstairs and maybe roses or something like that in a window. And also there is something old-fashioned chants hanging in it.
Mhm.
And she is complaining that John had never heard it or something like that. So she heard the room, and I think she wanted to change it.
Yeah, exactly. So she wanted a really fancy room downstairs with a big window, and it opened up onto the backyard. So the piazza is like a courtyard where you can sit and look in the garden, and there were roses. So it was very pretty, and it had nice decorations. So what is the problem with the room she is in now? Does it have a lot of windows? And is
No,
it
it's the
big?
dent. I think it's the dent. By the way, sorry, what's the meaning of chins? Chins hanging?
I don't know specifically. I think context clues, I didn't look that up. Pretty old-fashioned chintz hangings. I was thinking of like bronze work on the wall. But I could be wrong. I would recommend Googling. But I was thinking of, you know, when you visit like an old palace and they have bronze statues and beautiful like frames and molding on the wall. That's what I was picturing. Okay. And what is the what is on the windows in her room? Are her windows open or are they blocked with something? So if we take a look at okay. I can't find it right now. So she tells us that there are bars on her windows, kind of like you would see in prison. And then what does she also tell us is on the walls in her room with her husband?
Rings and things.
Rings and things. Does that sound like it was a nursery?
Yo.
Yeah. So she's creating this image for us that she's living in a room that was meant for insane patients. So chains on the walls so that you could like chain a person up by their hands and by their feet on the bed when they have an attack. And that someone was left in the room and that they tore the paint and the wallpaper from the wall. So she's in this room and it's a disaster. It looks like a hospital for an asylum, an old asylum, this room. Okay.
It seems to be like Shooter Island somehow.
Yes, that's horrible.
I like that movie. But yeah, so if you have that image of an old house, very big, and meant for insane patients, so an insane asylum, that's what she's describing to us here. It's not a room for healthy recovery. She's supposed to be vacationing in the countryside of England, and we're not getting that full image of walking through beautiful gardens and using her parasol or whatever women in the 1800s, 1900s did. So, all right. And who was reading before? The man I didn't see because I was following in the text. Can you continue reading this page for us?
Okay, it was me.
Yep.
So, I reached one of these sprawling, flamboyant patrons committing every artistic sin. It's dull enough to confuse the eye in the following, pronounced enough to constipate, irritate, and provoke study, and when you follow the lane insertion curves for a little distance, they suddenly commit suicide plank at outrageous angles, destroy themselves in unheard of conditions. On contractions, sorry, the colors is repellent, almost revolting sound. Smoldering, alkaline yellow, strangely flooded by the slow, training sunlight. It's the dulliet, lurid orange in some places, a scaly silver tint in others. No wonder the children hate it. I should hate it myself if I had to live in this room long. There comes John, and I must put this away. He hates to have me write a word. We have been here 2 weeks and I haven't felt like writing before since the first day. I'm sitting by the window now, out in the atrocious nursery, and there is nothing to hinder my writing as much as I please, save lack of strength. There is a lot of meaning. It's my first time reading something like that. It's too difficult, I suppose.
No, you did a great job. You really did. So, does anyone know what she is describing?
Me.
What is she? What?
Me, I don't reading.
Okay. So, what is she talking about? She's describing something in the room that she is in, that nursery room. So I chose this website mainly for the color. So she hates the color of this room. which is supposed to be close to the color of the website you're reading, so that yellow. And she's talking about the design of the wallpaper. So she is concentrating on one small detail in this room, and that is the color and the pattern of the wall. And she, almost the entire page was about the wall. So would you say that she is neurotic, that she has a nervous condition? Do you think we've reached that point? Yeah. Okay.
Yeah, she's even describing a color as repellent.
No, because she has not stable. She has nervous. She see the color repellent.
Yeah. So, I mean, we might not like a color, but are you ever repulsed by a color so much, especially yellow? It's usually friendly, meant for a nursery. So it's strange. So what activity is she doing during this page? What does she tell us that she's doing in this room?
Sickly, self-worth in others.
Okay, is she dancing? Is she playing a game?
Yes.
Is she reading?
Right.
What is she doing? Yeah.
I think she was reading, maybe.
Yeah, so she's writing. And does her husband like the fact that she writes? Does her husband encourage her to write?
No, he hates that.
Yeah.
He hates that she writes. Yeah, exactly. All right, so I think we have time maybe for another half a page, unless people have questions right now, because we are going to continue this story into next week, so next Monday at the same time. So why don't we open it up to questions, I guess, that you can ask about the story, the characters at this point, if you're confused especially. So feel free. Right. So I have one question for you, if you don't have any questions for me, which is, what do you think will happen in the rest of the story? We've gotten some small information about the characters and where they are. So what do you think is going to happen? What is your prediction?
I think he will dissolve her.
You think what?
I think he is going to dissolve her. Divorce her. Divorce her and move her to a psychical hospital, maybe, and live her life.
That's a great prediction. So John is going to divorce his wife and put her in an insane asylum. Awesome. Following context clues. What about anyone else? You can make anything up.
I think she's going to continue visiting the rest of the it's a hotel or a house, yes. So, and she will continue complaining about the house. Yeah.
Do you think her complaining will get worse, or do you think that she will lessen, stop complaining as much because she gets used to the house?
No, I think the first, yes. I think she will complain all the time. But maybe she will get afraid of something.
Yeah. Okay, so she'll complain more, kind of be a royal pain in the butt for John, and maybe one of those ghosts that she thinks lives in the house will attack.
Yeah.
Well, I think she's dead. She's a ghost, and the ghost is telling the story, and at the end the husband's gonna be crazy or something.
Okay, so kind of like the Sixth Sense, where
yeah.
Okay, so
Exactly.
she's a ghost and we don't know and then he's the one that's crazy. Yeah.
Yes.
That's an awesome prediction. All right. Well, I hope that we can continue this story next time because I know it's pretty difficult, but once we finish reading it, then we can really discuss it. And I know the language is a little difficult, but is everyone having an okay time understanding the characters and the plot at this point and the setting? So where they are, what has happened, and who our characters are.
Yes.
Yeah. All right. Okay, so perhaps a little early.
I think she is mad. Nothing can change her mood. He's all the time pessimistic and afraid from the color and the house and and everything.
Yeah, so she's pessimistic, and a little insane. Yeah, a little insane. I can't predict for you because I read this story in high school, and I wish I could, but I'm trying not to give too much away. But some of you are very close to what is going to happen. So for next time, if you guys are going to join me, I posted this link before. So if you guys want to read the story on your own, I recommend using word reference to help you translate. But then also, sparknotes.com is probably the thing that saved me the most in high school. And it'll give you an analysis of what happened in the story, so it can help you. So if you want to know more about what happened in this class, SparkNotes will help you, and you can just look up the yellow wallpaper. All right, so I'll let you guys go a little early today, but I hope you had fun, and it was nice seeing you guys. All right.
Okay.
Yes, of course. Thank you.
And I'll see you guys
Thank you.
hopefully
Thank you,
next
Laura.
Monday.
Okay.
Thank you, Laura.
Thank you.